It's winter in Montana, so I am headed to the Rock Creek Fisherman's Mercantile to see what John is going to be tying this week. Hopefully Aubrey will be there and will make me breakfast.
What do you bring?
What's for breakfast this morning, dear?
Carnitas.
What are you doing? Awesome. You are just too good to us. Do your magic.
Hi guys, this is John at the Rock Creek Mercantile. It's 2024. Can't believe that. It's weird to say, but here we are. It's the first Saturday of January, and we're kicking off the round table for the year. So we've got a bunch of newbies, so we're just kind of going over some basics at this point. So what we're gonna do is tie a little stimulator pattern. I really like salmon fly colors just because of where we are on Rock Creek. That focusing on there? Mm-hmm. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna try to simulate that, and we'll see how this goes. All right, so we have a size 6 Dairiki 270 hook. It's kind of got a little bend to it to give it sort of a more buggy kind of arc to it. It looks more natural once it's all said and done versus like a straight shank hook. So I put a coating of thread over the top, very thin. I'm using 6/0 uni thread right here, but you know, if you're newer to this, you might want to go a little thicker just because this stuff can break a few times while you're tying it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass around some moose fur for the tail. I really like dark tails on salmon fly stimulators, just to simulate that egg sac that pops up on the back of those stoneflies during the fishing season. And we're not gonna do too much of it, so what I'm gonna do is just cut off a few bits and just pass it down to people. That might even be too much there, but we're gonna stick with that for most of our tails here. So once you have your supposedly neatly stacked hair, we're gonna turn that into the tail. So we only want about...
Which side goes?
Fancy ends pointed towards the back. So you only want maybe a ½ inch kind of poking out the back from the bend of the hook.
Okay,
So once you have that on, tie down that hair to the body of the hook, not all the way up to the front though. You want about, I'd say another 3/4 to a ½ inch of hook still exposed. So only tie it down about that far, and then see how I have all that left over to the front? We're gonna leave that for later in the time. So once you've tied down that hair, work your thread back to where you initially tied down it. All right, so next step, we're gonna attach some yarn, because we're gonna wrap this body up, and we're gonna attach a feather to create a little bit of texture and fuzziness to it. So I'm gonna hand this out.
I might have to fish this one.
I would wait till June.
Pretty choppy.
Pass it on. All right, so with whenever you're using like hackles, you don't want them to be too thick. So what you want to do is kind of bend it and just see how much thickness you have throughout that feather. Like towards the base of it, those fibers really flare out, like they're almost an inch long right here. Towards this thinner end, it's closer to ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch, which is what we want to use. So you kind of want to look at it, decide where it starts thinning out. Usually it's about 1/3 away up the feather. And then you're gonna take your fingers and strip some of those fibers away from the shank of the feather, that middle portion there. So when it's all said and done, it should look, I have no idea if this is focused or not, but it should look something like that. You want to leave some of this like on the other end, just because when you're tying it down, it helps really like cinch that feather in.
So you got a tough one.
It's like this. Because all of this you won't need to save it.
And then you're going to take where you strip those fibers off the feather and tie it down right where your thread currently is. Yep, right on that back end. And then I like to run my thread up down the stuff that we're not going to use, just to really get that feather cinch down into that hook. So go forward towards where you initially stopped and then go back again. And this will also help you build like the thickness of the body, which is pretty crucial.
You good, bud?
And then once you have your feather tied down, you can take all this crud on the end and just snip it off. So you should have something that looks like that.
We need the cat on the cheeseburger in space. Yeah.
Yeah, that takes Ryan to a whole new level.
I feel like that's a metaphor for something. I just don't know what.
Life. It's a metaphor.
Well, it's a metaphor for life.
It's like a grumpy cat too.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
All right. Does everybody have their feathers tied in and ready to go there?
I think so.
Okay, so now we're gonna take that orange bit of yarn. This is poly yarn. And you're gonna tie that same spot where you tied the feather down. You want all of it just kind of back behind the hook, running down the vise. So just a teeny tiny bit that you're tying down. Like so. And then once you have that tied down, you're gonna take your thread and work it all the way up to where you stop tying in your feather, and like a third of the way from the eye of the hook to the back.
Oh, okay. Like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna take our yarn and we're gonna build the body. Same way you would wrap thread.
Forward.
Yep. Start from the back, go forward. Kind of try to keep the thickness of the body the same. You want it pretty uniform.
You have somebody to man the till. There's somebody that wants to purchase something.
Oh, I'll go up there real quick.
Okay.
Let me just do this real quick.
Just
Fast forward.
So how far up are you going?
Right up to where the thickness difference is.
You gotta put your fish
And then tie it off right there. So like that. So we all got that. And then we're just gonna do just some spaced out wraps as we work our way forward to the same area where we tied down everything else. So you're just trying to pretty much just break apart this body and create a pattern to it. And the more evenly spaced out the wraps are, the better. It just gives it a nice little look.
That's freaking rad. Look at that.
Yep, and that totally happens all the time.
I have some of these
this up.
at home and do those. It's like your own little creation. Okay.
Basically, yeah.
So then tie it in.
And then just tie it in. Yep. So I only got 4 turns off of that because these are shorter feathers, but with a lot of stimulators, people have like super long, thin feathers out of these really nice hackles, and they can do like 6 to 8 wraps usually. But just for practice, we're gonna do 4 here.
That's all right. I'll give you a hint.
So next step is we're gonna build the wing that's gonna go over the entirety of this hook. So you want probably about that much hair. Trying to figure out what the thickness of this would be. It's just one of those things where you kind of have to eyeball it. I tell people if you're just kind of figuring it out, don't even cut the hair off yet. Just grab it like this and put it up, and you think, look at it and say, does that need more or does that need less? In this case, I need a little more. So just grab a little more hair until you get to that point that looks pretty good. Like, yeah, that would be pretty good for a stimulator wing. So then I will take my scissors and cut at the very base where the hairs meet the hide.
Grab that.
Okay, so now
you
with your wing, those nice fine ends sticking towards the back, you want them basically parallel, the ends of the wing parallel with your moose tail that's back there. So you can go a little bit shorter, but the rule of thumb is you want it pretty even vertically.
And we're tying it from the middle or from...
We're tying it, so once you have it lined up, switch your grip.
Listen to the
So you
boss.
see the front, and then tie down, do 2 very loose wraps over all that hair just to kind of get it cinched down, and then gently pull it. If your thread is thin, you want to be very careful with this. I broke it off a few times practicing this, but usually you can do 2 wraps and then a pull.
Where are you gonna moose?
I can't see anyone's longer.
The haircut making it look all purty, and now we're just gonna chop it.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm giving it a nice little haircut. Just happy little hairs.
Don't cut them black.
Like a little mohawk.
Yep. Be sure not to cut your thread, obviously, but you should be able to shave it down to where it looks a little more neat and orderly. And then once you've done that, take your thread and just cover that whole front with it. Like make those hairs that you just trimmed down disappear under your thread.
I know, I like them.
They'll be back someday, don't worry.
Okay, you're caught up.
I can see what you're doing.
If you
You're
can't
making
make
like a
'em-
little head, you
Yeah,
know.
if you can't make them all disappear, it's not the end of the world. But, you know. All right, so let's start right behind the eye of the hook.
No disturbing titles. Like, no.
And we're gonna take some of these feathers. Let's see.
It's getting jankier.
It's getting jankier and jankier. Janky.
These ones?
Yeah. It's gonna be too thick, so you wanna strip the very end of it, like so. So you have something like that.
Sorry.
Oh, so the back end again.
Yes.
Those bigger.
Are we leaving some on the end or no?
You
Doesn't matter
can.
this
Yeah, I probably would.
All right.
It's not crucial, but it's nice. Nope, that's good. And so lay your feather back along the top of your wing and tie it down right behind the eye and work your way back
Hey Dad, can I have some help?
to where your hair meets your thread, where your wing meets your thread. And stop right in there.
Down.
Make sure it's tied down pretty good. So give it just a little tug to make sure it's not going to slip out. And once you found that it's not going to move, you can take that janky end near the eye and clip all that off. And then we're going to have some fun with dubbing, which is, sad to say, probably the hardest part of this. Okay. So, now take your thread, bring it back to where it meets the wing. Either dubbing wax, which is kind of the official way to do it, or a giant glue stick from Elmer's, which I actually really like to use. And then you're gonna basically cover your thread with either that wax or the glue. And that way the dubbing, once we twist it on, is gonna stick to this thread nice and easy. So just get all angles of it, front, back, sides, only about 3 or 4 inches.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey Dad.
So yeah, don't worry about your initial amount.
Fingers first.
Like once you start doing it quite a bit, you'll kind of get a feel for, you know, what's what,
First thing I do.
how much is too much, how much is too little. But if it's your first time, just wing it.
And then I twist. Go ahead.
And so what we're gonna do once that's on is we're just gonna use our bobbin
Go in one direction. Go.
to tie
Actually,
that dubbing on like so, just like it's thread.
Should I tie it around now?
Sure.
And then once all of that dubbing is pretty much covering all that thread that's near the front of your hook, you can do a few wraps right behind the eye and stop right there. How's everybody doing? Everybody feel good?
We're
Not so
feeling
good.
janky.
Feeling janky? The word of the day is janky. Okay, so once you have your dubbing on your head there, we're going to wrap it with the grizzly hackle. And you don't need to do too much, just 2 or 3 wraps, starting at the back of it and working your way towards the front. Just kind of give yourself a little fuzzy front there, basically.
Fuzzy wuzzy.
So I only did about 3 wraps there with my feather, and I don't have much room left, so I'm gonna tie it off right there. 3 wraps, wrap behind the feather that I'm holding, switch your grip, 3 wraps in front of the feather.
You want to work towards the head.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works too.
Yeah, because the whole finger thing.
The finger
Oh my
thing's
gosh.
easy.
Yeah, it's easy when you get the hang of it.
Stimulators have been around
Play with this guy.
forever.
Where's that white paper? Can I see
It's
your
an
white
old
paper?
style fly and still works great.
Got 2 tails. Or no, that's the wing.
It's the wing and the tail. Yep. And so yeah, this during salmon fly season would be pretty good. You'll have to
During
gink it
salmon
up,
fly
totally
season,
help, but
Gonna get janky with this. What's it called? A janky?
The Janky Stimmy.
Stimmy.